All right, guys, welcome back to another Master and Apprentice video and podcast. So as you guys can tell from the title, today we're going to be going over all the troopers in the Empire, right? This excludes officers, pilots, anything that's special like that. This is not what this is going to be about. This is mostly about, guys on the ground, boots on the ground, infantry, right? Pretty much anything that says trooper in it is probably going to be in this list, and this is regarding all Empire. And then the other thing is this is going to be excluding any captains or commanders, because that's not anything special. That's not specialty armor. That's not specialty training. That's usually just an insignia or a rank or something. It doesn't really usually change anything. So yeah, without further ado, we'll get right to our list. First off, we have obviously the Stormtrooper. We first saw this obviously in 1977, A New Hope, Episode 4. Very basic. White plastoid armor, the plastic looking armor, not super durable. The helmet holes suck. We all heard, why their aim sucks. Nothing unique about this armor, nothing unique about the training. It's just the Imperial basic infantryman, right? That's basically, the private or grunt in our army. That's what the Stormtrooper is, right? They're usually equipped with an E11 medium blaster. And that's really it. They don't really have any extra weapons, extra special training, nothing else to it.
The next one we get into is the Scout Trooper. First look is in 1983, Return of the Jedi. Their armor is actually very similar just to the regular standard Stormtrooper. It's made out of plastoid, very similar, but it doesn't have a built-in binoculars into their headpiece. Their helmet is very unique looking. The weapon does vary from mission to mission. So sometimes you'll see them with a pistol, sometimes you'll see them with a sniper. It just completely varies. Their main purpose is obviously for reconnaissance. So you put these guys on the ground, sets of 2 or 4 usually, just to go survey the area to see if there's any rebels around, something like that.
Next up, we have the Death Trooper. We obviously first saw this in 2016 Rogue One, A Star Wars Story with Krennic, right? They usually belong to a high-ranking official in the Empire, right? They usually assign to somebody specific, right? Like Thrawn has some, obviously Krennic has some, Tarkin has some, right? So they're usually assigned to a high-ranking official as like their guards or whatever. They sometimes they'll use them as their personal, they'll send them out on missions, right? Whatnot. Their armor is pretty much the same thing. It's the plastoid armor, except it's black as it is sprayed in what's called reflect. It pretty much warps whatever scanner or sensor, and it makes them almost invisible to them, right? So you can obviously still see them. There's these black dudes walking around, but to a sensor or scan, they're invisible pretty much, which is, it helps for, undercover missions. They're like the special ops, right? That's kind of what these guys are. So it's really nice for that. Along with that, their helmets have top of the line sensors and scanners in themselves. So, like I said, they're the special ops of the Empire, right? So their detailed missions, the stealthy missions, that's what these guys are sent in to do, right? And they can detect, like I said, they're usually assigned to a high-ranking official. They can detect a enemy whenever they need to with those high-level scanners. We see them with all kinds of weapons. There's not really a specific thing. We see them with the SE-14R, which is a repeating blaster, as well as a DLT-19D, that's a disruptor. So we see them with a lot of long rifles. That's basically what those both are. And then they actually do have their own grenades. They usually have them equipped either at their belt or on like a harness, whatever. They usually have grenades with them. Pretty much the way you become a Death Trooper is if you're in the Imperial Academy and you stand out because of your work ethic, because of your intelligence, because of all of these things, they'll send you to an additional academy for additional training. And then maybe you'll become a Death Trooper, right? So it's kind of the same thing what, special ops is for us, right? And what we know today is like if you're an outlier and what you do in your field, you might be able to do what they do, right? It's the same thing for the Death Troopers.
So next up, we got the Range Trooper. First look is in 2018 with the Solo Story. Their armor is stained plastoid, but it's coated with a thick fur around it for temperature environments, for husky, really cold environments. It's equipped with a magnetic grip-on boots. So they have a E10R blaster. Very similar to the Empire Shadow Trooper with more training and like harsher weather.
Next up, we have the Purge Trooper. The first time we saw this was actually in a comic series, 2018, the 2017 Darth Vader run, issue 13, but they actually weren't named. First time they were named was actually in the Jedi Fallen Order game that came out in 2019. That was the first time we saw them. We saw them again in the Kenobi, the first time in live action that came out 2022. So they're a relatively new part of the Star Wars lore, right? They also have that plastoid armor, the plates, but their armor is actually covered in a lightsaber resistant. I tried to do my best to find what the exact material is. It just says lightsaber resistant, right? So whatever it is, it's not impossible to cut through, because obviously we've seen it cut through by Cal Kestis in the game, but it's resistant, right? Like it's gonna take a little bit. It's not, it's just slice through it like you would a normal Stormtrooper, right? As well as having high-end scanners and micro binoculars built into their helmets as well. Their weapons vary as well. We'll kind of get into it in a second. They have either close range or long range weapons. The long range vary either from a DC-15A or a E11, or repeaters, blasters, disruptors, all of the above, but longer range. But they also have close range like vibro staffs and vibro batons. You might be, remembering from the Fallen Order game, they actually are trained for hunting down Jedi, right? Their whole sole purpose was to be at the disposal of the Imperial Inquisitorius. They work for them. They don't securely solely work with them, but they're at the disposal of them, right? And that's because they are trained specifically to hunt down and exterminate Jedi. That's exactly what they were trained for, nothing else, nothing less. A little fun fact, their actual armor in lore and in real life is based off of the Clone Airborne Battalion. I don't know if you guys have all seen those helmets a couple of times. That's actually what their armor is based off of. So if you've ever kind of recognized, you're like, oh, it looks a little familiar, I don't really know what. It's actually based off of that armor. So cool little fun fact.
The next one we got is the Cold Weather Assault Trooper, also known as the Snow Trooper. The first look was in 1980 and Empire Strikes Back, obviously on Hoth. Their armor is very simple. It's just a normal Stormtrooper armor with a whole bunch of insulated. It's a huge insulated suit with a heated breather mask. So it's ridiculously cold in Hoth, as we know. So they have to have something for that extremely cold weather. And it's got battery packs on it that power its breather mask. And their weapon is an E11 blaster and a flamethrower, as we see. They're no real different than a regular Stormtrooper. They're just meant for the real cold weather. So this just shows that the Empire has a whole bunch of extra gear set up for specific missions.
Yeah. Yep. Then the next one we got is the Coastal Defender Trooper, also known as the Shore Trooper. We first saw this in 2016, the Rogue One film. Kind of similar to the Snow Trooper, right? Really nothing special. It's about the equipment, more or less, for this one. E11 or E22. E22 is just a double barrel E11, but it's just a basic blaster, right? Their armor is very similar to plastoid, except this one's more sand. That's because it's a coastal trooper, so it kind of helps them blend in with the sand, right? So it's more of a tan-colored plastoid armor. They actually have a lot more gaps, very similar to the Scout Trooper, very breathable, flexible. Again, that's because a lot of shores are on. It's either warmer, or because they're going in water, they just need to be more flexible, right? They don't actually have a lot of leg armor at all, and that's because if they're going in water, the armor is just going to weigh them down in the water. So they need to not have too much armor on the lower half of their body. That's why you see them not really have any armor on those legs at all. Yeah.
Next one we got is the Wet Weather Gear Trooper, also known as the Mud Trooper, Swamp Trooper. First look is in 2018 with a solo story. Basically, it's pretty much just a regular Stormtrooper armor. It's just another one of these environmentally specific ones where it's the same person. They just put on a different set of armor. It has a lot more gaps at the joint areas. So if they get mud in it, like around your elbows or something, you get mud around there, you can still move. It has a waterproof cape and a breathing apparatus so that they can fully submerge themselves underwater. They're equipped with the same E11 blaster. Again, it's the same trooper that you see with regular just Stormtroopers, just another set of environmentally specifically made stuff for different planets.
Yeah. Yep. So there you guys have it. There's a couple other random ones, like there's the mortar or the commanders or the rocket, but those that wasn't, it was like this last three where the armor was the only difference, right? It wasn't the training, it wasn't the weaponry, it wasn't very different at all, in fact. So these were pretty much the ones that stand out the most as being the most unique different troopers in the Empire, and these are pretty much all the main ones, right? All the other ones kind of fall under one of these categories for the most part. So there you guys have it. As you guys can see, there's not a lot of difference between most of them. The biggest difference between a lot of them is just, environments, right? The armor is built for specific environments, which makes sense. The Empire had a long reach across the galaxy, and planets varied. They needed armor that made sure their troopers were safe, right, for the environment. So there you guys have it. Let us know what your guys' favorite trooper is out of the Empire. Mine personally is probably the Death Trooper. Just really cool, special ops. It's probably a really easy pick, but nonetheless, it's still a cool trooper.
Yeah. I like the Purge Trooper a lot. I think it's really cool. They're specific to hunting down Jedi, which, Jedi is just the bread and butter of Star Wars. Just cool to see something that's specifically made for that, and then you get to play with them in Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Yep. Let us know what your guys' favorite down in the comment. With that, we hope you guys did enjoy this. Don't forget to hit that follow and download if you guys are listening on the podcast, and then subscribe and like on the YouTube. And with that, we hope you guys did enjoy this, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Peace.